I've got an update for you in the incoming legal apocalypse for PlayStation and Xbox. Now, am I being hyperbolic with that? Sensationalist? No. The DEI programs and mentality at Xbox, specifically Xbox, was so pervasive that the lawsuits that could emerge from this would be apocalyptic for the division. Now, they're part of Microsoft, and Microsoft's a trillion-dollar company, so I don't see Microsoft going anywhere. But if you're having to pay out billions in damages, maybe even trillions, from all the people who you racially discriminate against, when headlines are constantly being dominated by lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit from your racial discrimination, yeah, the investors who want to get rid of the Xbox division might get their way. And then Sony needs PlayStation to stay afloat. If PlayStation gets sued into oblivion, well, Sony does not have a huge war chest to survive this. They could go under. So yes, we are very much looking at an apocalyptic scenario where Microsoft could sell off Xbox and then it would just die without Microsoft's funding, and Sony could go bankrupt and then need to sell off PlayStation. All because these people want to be racially discriminating pricks. Now, the last major update I covered was how the Supreme Court abolished a standard the lower courts established where you had to show damages. No law said you had to show damages. The lower courts added this so people couldn't sue for racial discrimination. And the Supreme Court heard this, and they overturned it. This can no longer be a standard. Now, there was another standard they had where whites have to show extra evidence to prove that they are being discriminated against. This started in the 1980s when all these lower courts added the standards. See, it was never voted on by the people. It was never approved by legislators. This was added by the courts. And if I were a more cynical man, which I am, so I might as well go full tinfoil hat with this, I would say this was a setup to prepare for the racial discrimination that was coming down the road. Because why would you need in the 80s, when you're about to start DEI discrimination in the 90s and onward, to make it so that white people can't sue for racial discrimination? That's a kind of very coincidental timing. But what do I know? I'm just a dancing monkey for people's amusement on YouTube. But yeah, essentially you have to show an extra amount of evidence if you're white that you've been discriminated against. This is nonsensical because the law does not say you have to show extra evidence if you are white. It just says you have to show that you were discriminated against. But again, the lower courts once again screwed this up. Now, the Washington Post also mentions why this will be apocalyptic, so you don't have to take my word for it. If she wins, the flood of reverse discrimination claims will be like nothing we've ever seen. Let me fix that for them. If she wins, the flood of discrimination claims from white people will be like nothing we've ever seen. Many corporations in this country are very likely going to go bankrupt from being sued into oblivion if this happens. Now, realistically, a lot of companies are going to go into the red as they're going to establish a fund where they're just going to pay out people they discriminate against. Smart companies are probably already starting to reach out to people they know they discriminate against and offer them a settlement. We'll give you money, you agree not to sue us. But the person leading this charge right now, or the person I should say that the case is centered around, is Marlene Ames. She was discriminated against in 2019, and she's been fighting it all the way up, and now the Supreme Court is hearing her case, and they are projected to side in her favor and abolish this nonsensical standard. And when this is abolished, it will open the floodgates for discrimination lawsuits against these companies. And as we know, Sony, through PlayStation, and Microsoft, through Xbox, and Microsoft in general, because they also had DA programs spread throughout the company, are both companies that have engaged in massive levels of discrimination. So they will be blanketed with this. It's going to be interesting watching how this case will reshape the gaming industry. And a lot of people are not going to realize that it was this case that really reshaped the industry. Because I don't see the Supreme Court going, oh yeah, no, white people can be discriminated against. That would be career suicide. The national outrage, because let's be honest, the Supreme Court are kind of cowards. The national outrage from this would be insane. They would need security details at their houses and at the houses of their families. They know this. They're not going to put themselves in danger and humiliate themselves over the blowback by saying, yeah, white people can be discriminated against. It's just, they're not going to. So don't expect that just because the courts are divided that some justice is going to flip and go, yeah, white people can be discriminated against. They're going to rule in her favor. This standard's going to get abolished, and then we're going to start seeing more and more lawsuits as Trump moves to crack down more and more on DEI. And hey, remember, you've been hearing it here at Gamers On. So hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.